This bill empowers the national parks to really take on single-use plastic, which is a major menace in our environment and a major climate problem as well. And we had this power in place under President Obama, so this bill would restore it. Here in Oregon, it would affect Crater Lake. It had 3 national trails and 5 national park sites apart from Crater Lake. And so we would, here in the state where we were the first to have a bottle bill, we understand the importance of recycling. Let's model and be at the kind of the front edge of the movement to take on single-use plastics. There'd be lots of opportunities for people to fill their own bottles. They'd be encouraged to bring them. They'd be able to buy reusable bottles on site if they'd like. They'd be able to buy water in glass bottles. So there's many options, and we need to seize on those options rather than continuing to have this massive use of single-use plastic. I think the best reaction on the House plans on impeachment hearings came from the Senate Republicans, who just kind of summarized, said, hey, it's a lack of evidence. You've been investigating forever and you don't have any evidence. It's a waste of time and it's the wrong priorities. So if Senate Republicans feel that way, I think that summarizes the message for me as well, that while Oregonians are saying do more on the cost of housing and the cost of drugs, on fentanyl, on childcare, take on these fundamental issues that affect families, including mental health, the House under McCarthy is completely distracted by invented political battles. It's bad news, and if there is a government shutdown, it'll be because Kevin McCarthy and the House Republicans are choosing to do deep damage to the American family. Well, one way we avoid having this conversation is to have a deal. And in this case, there was such a deal. Specifying exactly how much money would be in a continuing resolution, a deal agreed to by Kevin McCarthy for the House, by the leadership of the Senate, Democrat and Republican, by the president. And so Kevin McCarthy is walking away from that deal. That's why all responsibility for government shutdown falls squarely on the shoulders of the House Republicans. I certainly hope they can get their act together because to do otherwise is to do deep damage to regular American families. Well, I'm very concerned about the potential closure of Peace Health. The loss of having all of those healthcare services and emergency services nearby is a very big deal. We just saw out in Baker that the hospital closed its maternity ward, and we're worried about mothers having to travel many miles, potentially through winter storms in Eastern Oregon to reach a birthing center. That's a problem there, and Senator Wyden and I called for a study, and that study says no, there needs to be a birthing center in Baker City. Well, now here we are with a much larger healthcare facility that serves an incredible number of people being potentially shut down, and yet they just closed negotiations with Oregon Nurses Association for a 4-year contract with absolutely no mention that they were planning to shut the hospital down. This is a breach of good faith, and a breach of good faith, not just with the nurses, with the community. I mean, to announce that they have a challenge and say they need to partner with the community to figure out a solution if they're going to keep the hospital open, that would lead to the sort of dialogue and problem solving that's needed. And I hope that that's the sort of dialogue and problem solving that can even now, after this announcement, be implemented and the hospital can stay open while we pursue solutions. Some hospital systems are making massive amounts of money and putting billions into reserves. And I mean, literally billions of dollars into reserves. In this case, we need complete transparency about the economics in order to understand the situation better. Are they making lots of money on one facility and less on another because it serves lower income individuals? But isn't that part of what a hospital system should be doing? So are they hurting overall, or are they just losing money at this facility? There's many questions to be addressed and explored and try to understand the impacts, but that's why they should be announcing that they have a challenge and they want to be in full dialogue with the community to help figure it out, rather than blindsiding everyone. So far this year, better than we feared. We feared with those early rains and the production of a lot of grass, and when that stuff dried out in August and September, it could become a horrific year. And we would not be out of the woods yet. It was just 3 years ago at Labor Day that we had the horrific Labor Day fires driven by high velocity winds. So we shouldn't assume that we're in the clear for this year. And what we do know is the fire season is getting longer and hotter with more lightning strikes, more drought drying things out. And so we're going to face this year after year. It's why I'm so focused on reducing the vulnerability of forests near the urban wildland interface, programs that reduce the possibility of electric wires starting fires, lots of other strategies to try to recognize that we can reduce the immediate risk of a fire taking out a town. But we also have to recognize that we must transition to renewable energy, because the carbon we're putting into the air, and humanity put in more carbon last year than in any previous year, is heating up this planet and driving this situation. And so we've seen how much it's changed in 20 years in the drought and the fires. Think about where we're going to be 20 years from now. So we have to take it on at both levels. Certainly any deployment of offshore wind has to be done in full partnership in the Oregon way with all the existing users of the ocean. We've got crab, we've got shrimp, we've got salmon, we've got groundfish, we've got whiting. And the BOEM has started to produce maps to understand that better. But let's recognize this. For the foreseeable future, it's going to be much cheaper to do wind onshore and solar onshore than it is to do wind at sea. So while, yes, we need to plan in the long term to have offshore wind, it's not economically feasible at this point in time. So let's make sure we use this moment to have that full dialogue, so the plans that are set for the future fully honor all of our existing stakeholders and our industries in this incredibly fertile strip of ocean that we call home.